السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. In these times of trials Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting us through, and which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala definitely knows that every one of us can make it through, and that is why He has put us through it. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not put a responsibility upon any person except that is within his capabilities. So for us to pull through all this situation that we're going through, whether it's financial situation, whether it's difficulty with regard to the sickness itself, whether it's the after effects of it, of how we get back into communities, and whether it is our spiritual deficiencies that we're experiencing due to our lack of attendance of the masajid, whatever it is, all of this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that we as individual and as a Muslim community can pull through it, and that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put upon us. So never should we ever think that, no, how can I be going through this? Why is it me? No. Why is it you? Because Allah knows you can go through it. No, it was not the people who have passed away already. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew they couldn't pull through it. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't put them through it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts upon every single person that which He knows that a person can make through. Today I want to start off by mentioning a statement of Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, quoted by Imam Tabarani rahimahullah, who says that Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu made a statement, as-sabru nisful iman. Subhanallah, it's a very amazing statement. Because we commonly hear the definition of sabr, and the definition of sabr is to either hold firm to somewhere and not be moved, or to hold something back so firmly that that cannot move. Sometimes the word sabr can also be used in the meaning of imprisoning. So I imprisoned the captive, meaning I held him back so strongly that he was not able to move. And subhanallah, we find that in our life, for us to be able to obey the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and attain that true level of iman, as Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu narrates in hadith, that لا يزني الزاني وهو مؤمن, that a person who is committing adultery is not committing adultery in a condition that he has faith. What it means is that when a person is committing adultery, at that moment his iman has gone to such a low level that that perception of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's holding him accountable, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching him at that moment, has gotten really low. Or that his belief in the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that feeling of punishment, has gone so low that he is committing that vile act of adultery or stealing or all the other deeds that comes in the hadith. So this person, for him to be able to hold to that level of iman, he has to have sabr. And that is why the scholars explain there's three types of sabr. That means sabr ala al-ma'asiyah, that means sabr or having patience or holding fast or holding yourself back from committing a sin. Sabr ala ta'ah, and number two is sabr upon holding yourself firm onto obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And last one is sabr ala al-masaib, which we commonly understand as patience, which we commonly translate as patience, that going through a situation, having patience, and in spite of the situation, holding on to what is right. That is patience. So Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu explained to us that sabr is half of iman. That if you have to think about it, whether it's you trying to stop yourself from some type of sin, whether it's you trying to push yourself to do some kind of good deed, or whether it's you trying to console yourself and be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the bounties that He has granted you, in spite of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala maybe taking away a bounty from you apparently, and you being thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in spite of that. This all requires sabr. So in simple words, He's trying to tell us, for you to have that true level of iman, you have to have sabr and patience. And subhanallah, if a person doesn't have sabr, then he will allow his hands to wrong others, to do wrong things, to harm others, to the extent of even killing others. Subhanallah. If a person does not hold his tongue back, he will use that tongue to harm others, cause difficulty to others, and even cause wounds to hearts, as Rasulullah ﷺ says that these pain or this what do you call it, harm that's caused to the heart is even more difficult for a person to come back from the injury. The injuries of the heart are even worse than the injuries of the body. Why? Because the injuries of the body heal after a while, but the injuries of the heart almost stay forever, and extremely difficult to, as they say in English, you may forgive, but it is easy to forgive, but very difficult to forget. And so it remains in the heart, and every now and then a person is reminded of it. Or a person has to hold himself back from looking at something that is haram, or listening to that what is haram, or holding his feet back from walking towards that what is haram. All this requires sabr from a person. And subhanallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is slowly taking us towards a month which is famously known as Shahrul Sabr. Ramadan, Shahrul Sabr, that a month of patience. Why is it a month of patience? Because in the month of patience, in this month of Ramadan, we are obligated to hold ourselves back, not only from those deeds which are haram, but from those deeds which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had made halal for us. And subhanallah, normally we turn to these halal means so that we can abstain from the haram. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, no, this is the month that you train yourself in a way that that you realize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's happiness is the main thing. Yes, all these other months you're able to console your nafs and allow your nafs to indulge in that which is halal, and thus taking it away from that which is haram. But now in this month you have to tell your nafs that no, not only is that haram, but even the halal has become haram. Why? So we can attain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah. And when a person is able to attain the sabr that is required of him, do you know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him? This is not a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, no. So, a hadith of Rasulullah are authentic, and we have to bring iman upon them. We have to believe in them. But this surpasses that. This is the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, إِنَّمَا يُوَفَّى الصَّابِرُونَ أَجْرَهُمْ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. The only people who will be given their reward without any limit, without any accountability that, you know what, this is how much he's supposed to get, is as-sabirun. Innama yuwaffa as-sabirun. They will be given their reward in full. And when they are given their reward in full, you know what happens? Ajrahum bighayri hisab, without any kind of accountability. Why? Because a person was patient, had sabr. He said, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I will not lash out. In the month of Ramadan, subhanallah, becomes very difficult. A person is hungry, and now his spouse comes and says something that ordinarily you have just laughed about. Or the child comes right before iftar and he's making a wreck in the kitchen. He's trying to help, but instead he drops things. And what happens? We lose it. At that moment, it's the time to hold ourselves back. You know what the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam teaches us? As-sabru 'inda as-sadmati al-ula. That true patience is at the moment when it first strikes. And at that moment, if you're not patient, then after that, yes, a person cools down. A person can slowly think about it. But to hold yourself back at that very moment when it first strikes, and that anger builds up in you and is about to explode. وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. And he becomes from amongst those people who swallows their anger and forgives and overlooks. Then he is from amongst the sabirin. He is from amongst those people who are patient. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward them immensely without any kind of accountability, without any limit so to say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So respected brothers, if we want that immense reward of ajr without any hisab, when this month of Ramadan comes, we have to exercise true patience. Not only patience, but true patience. That means there cannot be a moment that we let it slip. There cannot be a moment that we let our tongues go loose. There cannot be a moment where we let our anger overtake us. There cannot be a moment where we allowed our tongue to backbite others and harm others because we're forgetful about it. No, we cannot let any of that happen. It is a month of patience, and patience means to hold ourselves back from all those things which will cause the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which will cause us to be deprived of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which will deprive us of this immense reward of eternal and unlimited reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let us remember, as Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu said, that sabr is half of iman. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, only those people who have patience will be rewarded in full. And what will they be rewarded? Unlimited rewards. Respected brothers, as I've mentioned previously also, I would also set a small reminder before we go, that definitely one of the things can drive us and encourage us to be mindful of this patience is the fact that one day we have to die. And when we die, at that moment, we'll be answerable for every single deed that we do. And if today we cannot hold ourselves back from those deeds which will cause us harm in the hereafter, then truly we will have to suffer for every moment that we were not in the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So respected listeners, remember death and encourage yourself by means of death to stay away from the disobediences of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jazakumullah khairan wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Please kindly remember to read the dua that's in front of the screen. Allahumma sallimni li Ramadan wa sallim Ramadan li wa tasallamhu minni mutaqabbala. Oh Allah, bless me with Ramadan and deliver Ramadan to me and receive it from me accepted, because we do not know. It is possible even now we may be deprived of the month of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the month of Ramadan in the best of conditions. Jazakumullah khairan wa akhiru da'wan alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.